Howdy. Welcome to my shop. My name's Ron, and I'll be your host for the next 10 minutes or so. Being a fourth generation carpenter, wood is that's my language. It's my living, it's my hobby, it's my passion. One of those passions is making stocks. I've never had any formal training in this. I just wanted to put a piece of wood on a gun one day, and I seemed like that'd be a pretty unique challenge, so I tried it. And been going at it ever since, but honestly, I owe a lot of my success to my customers, my friends that have suggested this or that, different ways of doing it to produce a better outcome. And so I appreciate them. I owe them a great deal. The finish that I use was suggested by a friend of mine that owns a gun shop in Georgia, a guy named Dan. I've been friends with him for many years, and I owe him for that knowledge. So I don't suggest that my way is the only way. That's just not the case. I picked up my abilities to do this from watching other people and seeing other things, and then figuring out how to do that. So it's a process. Some ways are better, cleaner, faster. They require less effort. On and on it goes. And I'm open to learning new and better ways. I'm always looking for that. My grandfather used to say, never let a day go by that you don't learn something. So when I do, I'll often look up, thanks, Pop, because no matter how old you get, you still need to be learning new things. So come on in, see what's going on today. Howdy. Today I'm starting on a 1876 Winchester. This one is chambered in a 4060 WCF. And I tell you what, to hold a piece of history in my hands is it's quite a feeling. This one, the original stock, had been really had a couple of bless your heart moments. It had split down the middle, and they glued it up, and then they put some metal behind these patches here. They put some metal in there. I'm not sure if it's a wire or a nail or a screw, but anyway, it's hidden on both sides. But it had split down the middle of it. Then the toe had broken off right there, and they put it back together with some epoxy or something. It had a rough life. Of course, it's this one is a 40,000 serial number, and they made them up to 60-something thousand, and it was started in 1876, so could easily be before 1900. So it's 125 years old, give or take. The fact that there's any wood left on it at all is pretty noteworthy. Anyway, somebody put a repro stock on it, and they didn't fit it right. And my friend that sent it to me is a gun guy, and they chewed it out, left a lot of large gaps. Some of these things you could throw a cat through, and it didn't fit this way. It's down below the metal. They're just not a good fit. But they got the butt pad on there pretty decent. And it seems to be the original pad and screws. So what we're going to do, and they've got this thing way proud of the wood, we're just going to replace this. Keep the butt pad, keep the screws, keep the dimensions. And this one's thinner. Right in here, it's just thinner. And it really is more comfortable, but it's thinner than the original. So we're going to go back with the original. This one's about an 1/8, maybe 3/16 thicker, right in here where it's fat. I guess you had to have a pretty substantial piece of wood on there, because it's, I don't know what this thing weighs, about 12 pounds. If you ran out of bullets, you could use it as a club. It was made for grizzly bears and moose and things like that. And this 40-60 was actually the smallest caliber this thing came in. There's a couple of them chambered in 45, and then there was a 50 in this same gun. It's basically an 1873 with a beefed up frame to handle more of the load. It's a pretty cool piece, really. It's got this little weather shelter shield on top of it that when you lever it, that shield comes back and your shell comes out. But when you go forward, this stays open for rapid firing, or if you get in bad weather, I guess it's just to keep the weather out, snow and stuff. Made by Winchester, and they stopped actually making this thing right before the turn of the century. I think 1898 was the last ones made, and it's got this little lock on it where you can lock your lever, I guess to keep it from coming open in a just in travel. But you can pull that lever up there tight, put that lock on it. You better have pretty good grip to work that lock. You there could stand a spot of oil, but that little lock kept that lever from coming open. It was really a survivalist, big game, doing battle with the biggest, baddest things out there rifle. And I would say it would just about turn a grizzly bear inside out if you hit him straight on. I'm not a bear hunter, so I don't know, but I've heard that they're bad news and hard to bring down. But if you had to go after one, so we're going to get started. I found me a piece of wood, and I can't put a really high-grade piece of wood on these things. They didn't come that way. It would raise a lot of red flags if I was to put some real pretty figured wood on there. Besides that, figured wood, even though it's prettier, it's weaker, and it tends to break in places you don't want it to break. You need straight grain, straight wood to handle the recoil and the strength of this. This is not a really big, right in here by the back of the lever, it's not a tremendously big gun, big stock. So it needs all the strength it can get, which means straight grain. This has a little bit of figure right around the very back of this piece of wood, and I'm going to get away with that. If you put it too heavily figured, people get suspicious. I'm not trying to make a forgery here. I'm trying to make a reproduction, but I do like to add some figure. People do like a little bit, and it's in the back where it's stronger anyway, so it's not going to matter. Up here on the front, it is straight grain. I've got some wane up here on the top of this piece and some sapwood on the light portion. I'm going to get rid of all that and just come in with this right here at the toe. The toe will be right in there, and so we'll get just a little bit of pretty figure. Let me get this thing in the planer and see more what I'm dealing with. Should just pull straight out. It's already split. Wow. That's if you ever wanted to know of what not to do, they drilled that hole in the wrong place up here, and they put a plug in it. They milled out more than was needed here. It had put a shim, a large shim. This thing is 1/4 of an inch thick, that shim in there. They made it so much wider than what it needs to be, and it's split in two places inside there. It's already got two splits, and it's got one split right out here. I don't understand roughing one up quite that bad. You can take your fingers literally and pull that apart. Wow. Anyway, onward and upward. Leaving the past behind, I press on. This has been cut for years, and there's no fractures, no hairline cracks or anything in this end. So I feel pretty safe. and just going straight out to the end of it. And I'm going to put the toe down as far down as I can get it in this pretty grain here and capture all of that I can. The only thing about doing that is that I need to turn it a little bit more straight with the grain. Up here where it's thin, this needs to be straight grain. And the further I kick it up this way, the more slanted that grain is. I don't want to do that. Something like that. For right now, I'm not going to try to cut this shape exactly. I'm going to draw it, but I'm not going to cut it exactly. And off the top of my head, I cannot think of a good reason to tell you why I'm not going to cut that exactly, but I'm just not. Some things you feel, you just can't explain them. The front of this little nub that goes inside here is very important. Now the original one, half of it's broken off. You can see that half of this is here. Come on, camera. You can see that this half is still here, but this half is split off. It's gone. But that's very important in the stability of this thing and how it fits and how strong it is. It keeps that from going this way against the receiver. That's what this line is. That is a very, very precise cut. Everything mills off of the front of this stock. My bandsaw blade, it was very poorly made by a company in Chattanooga that took it back to them, asked them if they wanted to remake it, and they sent me my box of blades back and they didn't touch them, so I'm just going to use it for a break. That would be now. I would not recommend getting bandsaw blades from an old hardware store on Rossville Boulevard. I'm not going to call their name. That would be in poor taste. But that blade lasted probably an hour. It's still quite sharp. Just, they make their blades, they ground them. They ground the weld very poorly and very thin, and they didn't weld it even to start with. I have made blades myself. I know how to do it. I just don't have the machine anymore. So when I took it back to them and asked them to fix it, they looked at me like I was really expecting something ridiculous, that it would be made right. And when I left them with them, they just basically put them in a different box, sent them all back to me.